Welcome to this next episode of YouTube entitled Cold Weather Management. And certainly we are having a little bit of cold weather. We had an 18 below Fahrenheit day here just recently. But wolf care is done again 365 days a year, regardless of temperature, regardless of holidays. We are here, and one of the things that we are trying to manage is a lot of straw beds. You can see Luna as she laid down there a little bit tender on that back right leg, and no doubt that plate is having some irritation in this colder weather. We're watching her to see how she's responding. We want to make sure that she's still active, she's still engaged in activity, and we are making sure that, again, that she has plenty of warm places to lay and to get some, hopefully, relief from the packed snow that is inherent in a captive exhibit. And so with these straw beds, it becomes a little bit of competition. Everybody wants the fresh straw and everybody wants to have their own bed. Luna typically wins. She usually gets whatever bed she wants, and there's multiple beds in here, so we know that she's doing well and she's maintaining herself pretty well and she's active. You know, it's one of those things that, again, we watch the video, we watch her daily during wolf care to make sure that she's interacting well and that she's feeling good and, you know, able to move around a bit. She has a hop on some cold weather days, and of course all the wolves have some cold weather issues where you might see one of them picking up a front paw or back paw, where they're responding to that compacted snow within the exhibit. And so we are, like I said, maintaining that on a daily basis. The straw beds are raked every day. New straw is put out anytime we have a fresh snow. And this is the top of the regular den, and this is Aiden getting a ride up here from Bolts, and that's something that Aiden's been tolerating, but I think sometimes Aiden is showing a little bit less tolerance as time goes on with some of Bolts' testing behavior. But as we said, the interactions between these guys are very calm. These little playbouts of Bolts testing is not a significant, what we consider, aggressive pattern. So Aiden kind of looks around, he tries to find a bed that's not occupied, and he comes over to the slate den now, which Bolts has, and Bolts gives a little bit of greeting, and these two are really getting along quite well. And again, this is Aiden on the left, Bolts on the right. They do have a really good bond. Even though Aiden is getting a little bit of testing response from Bolts, he's still in a good greeting behavior. So here's Aiden trying to rest on the straw on the slate den, and not too much resting going on because Luna's about to come up. So they're gonna kind of do a little bit of what we call a hip slam there, and Luna comes over and she's gonna claim this bed. So in this sequence of clips, Aiden was trying to get on the main den, and Luna took that over. So Aiden came over here, and Bolts was over here, and Luna's now taking that over. So again, Aiden just getting a little bit of a testing behavior from these pups, but taking it all in stride. And this is Aiden and Bolts jaw sparring, and Aiden's in a very relaxed mode, rolling over. He would not roll over for Bolts if he didn't feel comfortable with the interaction. So it's one of those social behaviors that puppies will get plenty of opportunities to test, and the adults sometimes put limits on, sometimes they don't. It depends upon the adults, and fortunately for us, Aiden's a pretty good pack leader. Now, Denali, on the other hand, has got some issues, and Denali is getting pinned here by Luna. Bolts is trying to do a little bit of a obnoxious, submissive paw to Aiden's face. So Denali's got to deal with puppies who don't necessarily respect him, and probably because Denali steals their food from them, who knows, doesn't show a lot of leadership, and so the puppies are really pinning him a little bit harder. And then Denali, in addition to that, has to deal with Aiden, who tries to keep Denali in a submissive posture, and you see Denali's tail is tucked a little bit there, and certainly he's experiencing a second ranking status from Aiden, but also the pups who are willingly testing and pinning and doing whatever. So, like I said, we try to keep as many straw beds as possible, and here's Luna on a straw bed that we have in front of the big greeting rock, and she brought a deer hide over there to sleep with it, and this one's getting some sun, so that's going to help quite a bit. So again, we watch her to see that she's doing okay, and here's a good indication that she seems to be doing fine. She's scent rolling on a beaver. We had fed a beaver on Wednesday night, trying a midweek feeding of some larger carcass because they seem to like to eat on the larger carcasses better. But something about this beaver just caused Luna to scent roll more than feed. So interesting is the dynamics of the ravens. She's been chasing ravens. Both her and Bolts have been chasing ravens off of food. But here the ravens seem to just get out of her way, but watch her scent roll and try to go over and get a scrap of meat while she's doing it. So it's kind of an interesting dynamics that are going on. And this is in front of the camera. We did put a straw bed as well as the moose hide kind of closer to the front of the camera because we know that they don't always hang out up there, and so we did move some straw over there earlier this week. So again, continuing to scent roll. Luna actually scent rolls probably more than anyone here. I'm not sure what that's about. She is pretty food possessive, but you wouldn't think that food possession and scent rolling have a lot to do with it. But Bolts comes over and tries to eat, but she's too busy eating, rolling, and Bolts doesn't get a lot of food from that, although from the feel of his belly, he probably ate a lot the night before that was brought in. And so that's a good, again, indication. I think she's not feeling too much pain. You wouldn't put yourself in that kind of contorted, twisted body function if your legs were too sore. So we continue to give her adequate shots once a week and working on trying to get her to take her old supplement again. We want to make sure that we maximize her nutrition, and so we're trying that. She's of course avoiding it, and so we're working on some ideas here. But that's our biggest concern in 2013 is how is Luna doing. We know we've got some cold weather coming. This is northern Minnesota. January has just started. We've been known to have 20, 30, 40 below weather, so we're working on monitoring that pretty closely, and this is another indication behaviorally that maybe she's a little bit chilled. She's laying down in kind of a curl rest, and Bolts is laying next to her in the curl rest, and she chooses to use Bolts' tail to cover her nose. So again, the warmth and camaraderie between these two individuals is still important, and they do get along pretty well. And here's Bolts, who's going to continue to give Luna his tail, and then go about and groom her a little bit. So again, that's a good sign as she falls asleep there while she's getting groomed by Bolts. And finally, I think Aiden got the main den, and they finally settled on the slate den here. And in Grizzer's world, we again want to just reiterate how Grizzer really appreciates, or seems to, that's my interpretation, the staff time. He's done a lot of subordinate rollovers, a lot of interactions with staff, give staff a great opportunity to check him out, to do a full body massage. He sometimes has ice balls on his feet, so we get those cleaned off, and sometimes when he rolls over he gets a little bit of a sneeze fit, which he has here, and being upside down can make him sneeze a little bit. But this is really one of the benefits of living alone, is you don't see us get that kind of attention to the other wolves because there's competition. So after Grizzer gets a full body massage, then he's in the mood to run, and this was a difficult thing to film because he's running so fast I can barely keep up with him with the camera. So he comes around probably maybe 10 times, and then he settles down and does a little posturing towards the retirement there at the end with a T2 tail. Of course, in retirement, Malik is doing a face wipe here after he had some chicken. This was a chicken feeding on Wednesday for Grizzer, Shadow, and Malik. And again, that's something that we'll do all winter long for these guys, is to make sure that they have a midweek amount of calories to help them through some of this colder weather. And we can always tell when they're full or when they're more interested in feeding based on the caching behavior. And so Shadow in this next clip took a chicken leg and decided he didn't really care for it, so he cached it. And actually, I only clipped a small portion of this. He spent about 3 minutes caching this chicken leg in the straw. Again, Caching behavior is when you have extra resources, you're going to bury them for later. That's usually an indication that they're full and not necessarily interested in what we're feeding, but they will cache it and they'll come back to it later on. So Shadow does this, like I said, multiple minutes where he's repositioning it. He pulls the straw back out, pushes back with his nose, tamps it with his nose, and kind of makes the perfect cache hiding spot. One thing that we have to be watchful of as wolf care staff is when we're doing straw in the den, we have to make sure that we're not, disrupting a cache. Wolves can be possessive of caches, and regardless of staff and how many years we've worked with them, it's still sometimes an aggressive encounter if by chance you disrupt their cache. So Shadow finishes his cache. He's going to go take a little bit of a check around for, I don't know, what other food resources. Malik, who's been watching him do that cache that whole time, comes over to investigate but doesn't take it. And it varies. Sometimes they steal each other's caches, sometimes they don't. Again, probably another indication that they're not very hungry, that they have that food resources available. So, of course, Shadow's watching him come over to the cache. And what does Shadow do but picks up another chicken leg and is going to go try to find another cache. So, again, it's a little bit of posturing between these two, but this tells me that both of them were full and they didn't necessarily need that extra week feeding. So the other thing that's been going on, we go back and forth with this where Shadow feels good, Shadow doesn't feel good. In this clip, this was the first indication that something didn't look right for Shadow. This is Malik sniffing Shadow's precaudal scent gland. Normally Shadow doesn't tolerate that. Shadow will whirl around and posture over him. But Shadow just kind of stood there and let him investigate. And that's not normal Shadow behavior. So it always, there's so many gray areas in older animals, how they're feeling, how they're doing. So we have to look for subtle signs like this. That's not normal for Shadow to stand there and let Malik be behind him, let him investigate him. And then this also was a clip that I watched that made me a little bit suspect. Malik comes over in a T2 tail, actually a T1 down to a T2, kind of postures and turns into Shadow. And normally by now Shadow would have had his tail up and would have put an end to it. He does a slight chin rest, but not nearly the same behavioral patterns that normally Shadow displays. So that tells me that Shadow's probably not feeling very well. And actually later I didn't get it on film, but Shadow was greeting me, and Malik came in and did a grab bite at him and then took off. And Shadow again didn't respond. So it told me Shadow wasn't feeling very well, not certain what it is. Then I watched him try to go to the den and howl. And again, he tried to let out a howl, didn't happen, and then tried another howl and was a little bit hoarse. So later, subsequent hours after the filming, I did hear him howl, so I know he does. It's not his vocal cords. I think, again, sometimes Shadow just has moments where he feels good and then moments where he doesn't, and there's no real symptomatic thing that we can pinpoint, and it's one of those things that we just kind of keep watching, which is why we keep filming. So that's it for this week's YouTube, and again, just to reiterate, Denali's getting a little bit of Luna pinning, and we have Aiden putting some limits on Bolts sometimes. Bolts always interested in food, and then Grizzer having a pretty good social time, and Luna again watching that back leg to make sure that she's doing okay, and Malik looking for opportunities to take care of Shadow, who's not always feeling the best. So that's it. Thanks for watching.